year in 2023. They had Olynyk back, they had Clarkson back, they had Markkanen back, and that made a huge difference for a Jazz team that's now 8-3 in their last 11 games. And in the West, even if you're playing a team under 500 on the road, it's going to be a tough test. As with the Mavs, games the Mavs are needing to win to make some damage going forward.
You worried a little bit about how this one would set up. You know, Kyrie Irving is coming back. The Mavericks are thrilled to be getting as close as they have been to healthy in a long time. You could kind of relax a little bit. You're playing a Utah team you beat by 50. However, you know, following them closely, they have really turned things around in a big way. Offensive and defensive rating for them over the last 10 games was in the top 12 in the NBA. They really figured out some rotational things, got healthy, got some big players back in tonight. And at the bottom of your screen there, 87-point difference. That's the largest turnaround following a 50-point loss in NBA history. That's wild.
Which beats the record of 84 that the Mavericks were involved in when the Knicks did the same thing and flipped the script. And you heard Will Hardy after the 50-point loss kind of saying that, you know, our players played like dogs and this was not, you know, indicative of who we are. So he had this game circled as well, and they really wanted to make a comeback. But you're right. Listen, you know, the last game of a road trip before a long homestand sometimes can be a look-ahead game, and also a game where you do have other players back. Did other players that usually have been stepping up take a breather and say we need to defer to the big dogs, Luke and Kyrie playing together again for the first time? There's going to be a lot for Jay Kidd and his staff to kind of digest as they have a, you know, 2 games they should be winning looking forward here to start the homestand against Portland.
Well, but Jordan Clarkson is about as good as you could get coming off the bench, and he was an absolute spark from the second he stepped on the floor tonight.
Yeah, he didn't have his 3-ball, which is what he's known for, but he was still able to get 20 points, 10 boards, 11 assists. Remember, he was the one who was traded for Dante Exum when Exum was actually first traded from the Utah Jazz. But he's one of those players that you look for at the deadline. Is he a name that's in play, because he may not be in the long-term growth plans. He's in his 30s for Utah. He can get them more of those draft picks so they can keep building around him. And I'm glad that they got that triple-double, that they could finally, you know, get off the schneid of that odd note. They are kind of celebrating like Minnesota celebrated when they made the play-in a couple of years ago. It was, you know, a little bit over the top, but hey, you know, let's give them their due, and they had every right to be happy after this 37-point win.
Yep, 20 points, 10 rebounds, 11 assists for Sexton. And you always anticipate big games from Markkanen. Colin Sexton's been really good, especially since going into that starting lineup. He had just 8 points in this game, 0 of 3 from long range. The beginning of the game, though, Simone Fontecchio was the guy
you're saying that
you had to take notice of, because he had a big first quarter and ultimately tied a season high, was just 2 points off a career high. And sometimes we see this in games against the Mavericks where a few come make a name for themselves.
Boy, that's just the last 30 days. Look at that, from 1.3 to 19. Everybody going from under 5 to double digits, except for the one player, Naz Reid, who didn't have a great game tonight, but did against the Mavericks on the 14th when Minnesota came to town. Listen, the game plan is always, when you have players like that, that's who you sag off of, that's who you dare to shoot. But sometimes they hit them when they're open looks, and Fontecchio was really hot early, hitting 3 of his first 4, but still being able to be effective otherwise, getting those 6 rebounds, the 2 steals, really helping them early on before Markkanen and Clarkson got going. And you knew it was going to be a tough game from the start when he was, you know, he looks like one of my cousins, to be honest with you. Like, he didn't look like he belongs on the court, but